about my story is there's still a lot of it that I don't quite understand, but at the end of the day, it's Yahweh's story, and so I'm going to tell it as He has written it so far. So I was born into a Mexican Catholic household. My dad would take us to Mass, which was the longest 3 hours of my life. And I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand what the priest was talking about. We were just there, and I knew we had to sit quietly, and I knew we were there for God. What I could understand, though, at that age, was that I needed God, and He could help me, and He would be with me even in situations where my own parents couldn't. At that age, I had night terrors and demonic visitations twice a week for years. They were in a regular pattern, and I felt helpless. Again, this is why I was saying that even my parents couldn't help me through it. In fourth grade, some Jehovah's Witnesses tried to witness to my mom at work, and she was learning from them until her boss intervened. He said, "Hey, can you come and can I talk to you for a minute?" He brought her into his office, and he went through some scriptures with her, helped her kind of undo some of the false teachings that were being taught to her. So in that search for truth, she decided to attend a Christian church service. It happened to be an Easter Sunday service. They had an altar call at the end, and she decided, I'm going to give my life to Jesus. She decided to take my brothers and I to youth group as a result of that. And it was way better than Mass. I could understand what they're talking about, and she got me a children's Bible that I got excited about reading. She started praying and going through scripture with me regarding those night terrors that I was having. My parents realized that I wasn't bursting into their room every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 11 p.m. out of random for nothing. They made the connection to keep it simple here. It was witchcraft that was directed at my family from a couple generations back, which eventually took my grandmother's life, among a couple other things. So this inspired my mom to pray with me, and she taught me Psalm 91. And what I saw was that the more I prayed, the nights that I would pray and read and just put my focus on God, even if it was a Tuesday or Thursday evening, I wouldn't have those night terrors. They didn't go away completely until there's a point in my life where I just said, God, I can't mentally survive this ordeal unless you intervene. I give in. It's in your hands. My life is in your hands. I'm helpless. And at that point, they stopped. They stopped happening regularly. I would still have them on occasion. Then my dad steps in, and mind you, we were a Catholic Mexican family, and my dad tells my mom, no more church. If you want to go and get brainwashed, go ahead, but do not take our kids to this Christian church. So my mom stopped taking us to church, which happened to be in a crucial stage in my life. Then we moved towns, and with that move came a different culture. I felt alone. I felt like I couldn't adjust, and in this age, around 12 years old, my self-esteem took a nosedive. My sense of belonging was gone because I was pulled out of what I knew. That started a journey for me of trying to find my place in a society of a bunch of kids my age that I couldn't connect with. I felt like an outsider. So, which looked like me spending my lunches alone. Even the acquaintances that I made, I felt like I couldn't connect with anyone. And then I continued in this vulnerable stage going into high school, which made things worse. by this point, no self-worth. And I felt like I'd been robbed of my innocence from an early age, which added to the shame and even like a self-hatred. So you put that kind of a teenager in a public school setting in the Bay Area, you add hormones, and then you get a big mess. So in my dysfunction, in my seeking, God got me back into a youth group. And at that point, I wasn't surrendered yet, but I was now listening to God. I was listening for him, listening to what he's trying to tell me, and was hopeful. And then it took another 5 more years in a dark period of my life with more scars and wounds before I finally decided I wanted to fully surrender like I did as a young child. From the moment that I got out of the little baptism pool, 30 seconds later, God brings somebody into my path who set me on a journey, I'm condensing here, to get me out here to Placer County, to Jessup, William Jessup University. Out here, being stripped of everything that I knew, again, new town, not knowing anybody, the one connection, one of the consistent, regular connections to back home that I was having was I was praying regularly with my cousin who was going through a hard time. And she decided one day to say, I'm going to pray with you to get a vision of your wife. And I said, you don't need to do that. I humored her. I said, okay, sure, go ahead. And one evening, I laid down to close my eyes. I get this vivid image of sitting across a table, like a coffee shop across from some woman that I didn't recognize. I caught a glimpse of her complexion, her hair, and the jacket she was wearing. And this was just me laying down. I closed my eyes, and for a split second, it's like a picture that I saw. And I thought, that was weird. And I just made a mental note just in case because I didn't know what that was. Well, fast forward a couple more years, I'm sitting by myself one Sunday at a church, and almost audibly, it's like I felt the message go through my whole being was, here comes your wife. And to my left, someone was coming down the aisle, turned to my row and walked towards me. And I thought to myself, okay, there's no way that I'm gonna look. That's weird. Why would I even think that? And then, because of course he would, the pastor says, say hi to your neighbor. It's like, okay, here we go. So I turned to look, and she definitely has the hair, the complexion, and looks like the woman that I had seen, but she didn't have the jacket. We introduced ourselves, but spoiler alert, Jess here was struggling to get my name right. Because she didn't hear me, and then the pastor started his sermon, so I started to get awkward because everybody else is getting quiet and she's still trying to figure out my name. So I said, don't worry about it. And she didn't like that very much, and it wasn't a good first impression. So long story short, church service ends and we part ways. A year after that, story continues. God brings us back together. After a year of dating, we get married. And it was after the engagement that she comes home and she says, hey, look what I found at Goodwill. And it's the jacket. And I was like, okay, well, there's the final checkbox. Okay, I guess that there was something to that image that I saw. So then we continue. It was, Jess and I are very different. Like if there's like a compatibility list that people go by to find the person they're going to marry, God just moved that out of the way. He knows who he has for you, and that's what he did. And through that, then he continued to, little by little, all these scars that I've had, he's been confronting them and putting me in a place of surrender and saying, it's not about you. It's not about what you think you need for yourself. It's what I know you need. And in continuing in that theme, he brought us into a smaller and smaller fellowship. That small fellowship ended up being a Bible study. We had some friends who were from this Hebrew roots thing that we had not heard of before, which put us in a place of realizing how little we knew, or questioning a lot of the stuff that we thought we knew, and then put us in a journey now of a couple years of relearning and not being afraid to question anything that we had been taught in church. And little by little, one day, fast forward to Kathy over here sends me a link to a website. She said, "Hey, I think this might be up your alley." And at that point, there had been about a week where I was going onto Facebook, and there's a little strip there where it says people you might know, and there was Trevor's big fluffy beard and headphones that he's on his profile picture, and I thought, oh, that guy looks interesting, but I don't know who that is, so I'm not going to click on his profile. So the website she sends me, then I scroll down, it says Yeshua's house, and I scroll down and I see Trevor's face again. I thought, okay, there's something to this. And then I read the website, and it was exactly what Jess and I had been praying for years in terms of fellowship. And then after that, he comes over to our house, and that was day one of our journey with Yeshua's house, which has brought us to this point here. And that's where God has a story so far.